The world of Valora floated like a jewel in the dark sea of space. The Velaran people lived in quiet cities that hovered above glowing blue oceans. Their homes shined with soft lights. Their towers moved gently with the wind. Life was peaceful, calm, and beautiful. But peace often hides fear, and on Valora, a new fear had begun to grow. For weeks, stars had vanished from the sky, not because they died, but because something covered them. Trade ships went missing, space lanes went silent, strange shadows drifted between planets, leaving only broken signals behind. The Velarans whispered about an enemy they dared not name. The Council of Valora gathered in the Grand Hall, their voices trembling. Elder Syrah, the oldest of them, placed her hand on the glowing table. "We must call for help," she said. "If we wait longer, our world will vanish like the others." "But who will answer?" another council member asked. "The United Planetary Council has not replied for days." "We have one choice left," Syrah whispered. "Humanity." The word humanity carried both hope and fear. Humans were known across the galaxy. They were strong, unpredictable, emotional, and terrifying when they decided to fight. But they were also rescuers, protectors, the ones who stepped forward when all others stepped back. So the Velarans built a distress signal, a massive pulse of energy that reached deep into the dark. They sent a single message. "Humanity, please help us." After the signal left their world, silence returned, a heavy silence, a silence that felt alive, like it was watching them. 3 days passed, the oceans below turned stormy, the floating cities shook as if the air itself feared something. No ship arrived, no fleet responded. The council grew terrified. "Perhaps humans will not come," someone whispered. "Perhaps they cannot hear us. Perhaps they choose not to." But Elder Syrah shook her head. "When humans hear a cry for help," she said softly, "they answer, one way or another." On the 4th night, the stars above Valora changed. At first, only one light appeared, a burning spark in the black sky. Then it grew brighter, larger, heavier. The night turned blue, then white, then blinding gold. Velarans ran to the windows, their wings shaking. The sky opened. A massive shadow fell over the entire city. Lights formed along a metal shape so huge it looked like a floating continent. Engines roared like thunder rolling across the world. The air trembled, waters below lifted in huge spirals. It was a ship unlike any the Velarans had seen before. It was a human dreadnought. The name alone was enough to freeze their hearts. 6 kilometers long, armed like a moving fortress, glowing with the power of 1,000 suns. Smaller ships formed a protective ring around it, scanning the system with sharp blue beams. Velarans stared in shock. This is not a rescue ship," someone whispered. "This is a war machine," another said, voice shaking. The dreadnought hovered silently above Valora. It did not send a greeting, it did not speak, it only watched. Elder Syrah stepped forward, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. "They came," she whispered, "but why in such force?" Then a single transmission echoed across the city, deep and cold. "Valora, stand by. Your enemy has touched human space." Another pause, heavy as a falling mountain. "That is enough." The Velarans did not know what that meant. But they understood one thing clearly. Whatever answered their call was not here to negotiate. Humanity had come with fire, and the heavens would soon burn. The human dreadnought hung in the sky like a giant metal mountain, silent and unmoving. The Velarans watched from their floating platforms, afraid to blink, afraid to breathe. Never in their history had they seen a ship so large, so powerful, so cold in its presence. Around the dreadnought, dozens of smaller human ships spread out like steel birds. They moved with perfect coordination, scanning the oceans, the air, and even the energy fields surrounding the city. Blue sensor beams cut across the sky, each one sharp as a blade. But still, no human voice. No message of comfort. No words of peace. Velarans whispered to each other. Why are they silent? Why do they act like we are already in danger? Why do they prepare for war? Inside the Grand Hall, the Velaran Council watched the sky through a transparent ceiling. Their wings twitched nervously, reflections of the dreadnought dancing on the glass. Elder Syrah finally spoke, her voice steady but her hands trembling. Humans never travel with such force unless they expect something terrible. Counselor Leren gulped. Do they think the enemy is already here? Or coming, Syrah answered quietly. Humans do not fear shadows, they fear what hides behind them. As if answering her words, a deep hum rolled through the air. The dreadnought was powering its lower cannons. Massive circular weapons rotated into place, lighting the sky with a faint red glow. Velaran stepped back in terror. "They are aiming at us," one guard shouted, wings flaring. "No," Elder Sira said, focusing on the pattern of lights. "They are aiming around us." Moments later, the first human transmission finally arrived. A single voice, calm but heavy like steel. "Valora, remain indoors. Do not interfere. Clearance locked." The message confused everyone. Remain indoors? Clearance? Interfere with what? The council began arguing, but Elder Sira held up her hand. "Humans are not speaking to us," she whispered. "They are speaking to something else." Before anyone could ask what she meant, an alarm echoed from the dreadnought. Blue lights flashed across its hull, ships repositioned instantly, forming a wall around Valora. "They found something," a guard muttered. "Or something found them," another replied. Human escort ships launched tiny probe drones into the air. Each drone created holographic maps for a fraction of a second before vanishing back into the clouds. The results appeared on the glowing screens inside the dreadnought. Unstable distortions, strange chemical traces, unnatural shapes moving between the clouds. The humans did not panic, they did not hesitate, they acted like they had seen this before. Because they had. On the dreadnought bridge, Captain Rhea Morgan watched the screens with cold focus, her voice carried across her crew. Enemy signature confirmed, outer rim pattern, hollow spores detected. Her officers stiffened. "So the rumors were true," one said. The captain nodded. "They followed Valora's signal, they marked this world, they will not stop." Her second officer asked the question quietly. "Captain, do we warn the Velarans?" "No," Morgan replied. "We protect them, warning only creates fear." Back on Valora, the council stared at the sky as the human ships formed a deadly circle, weapons charged, shields rising like glowing walls of energy. Counselor Liren whispered, "Are humans preparing to attack?" Elder Sira shook her head slowly. "No. They are preparing to defend." At that exact moment, a single hollow rift opened in the far clouds. A twisting dark wound in the sky. Velarans screamed as strange shadows poured out, their shapes stretching unnaturally through the air. Human sensors locked instantly. Alarms turned red. Weapons aimed. Captain Morgan gave one order. "All ships, engage." The humans had not come to negotiate. They had come to fight. And the first battle for Valora had begun. The first hollow rift spread across the sky like a living wound, twisting and moving as if it breathed. Velarans watched in horror as dark shapes crawled out of it, thin and long, like shadows that had escaped their owners. These creatures did not fly. They drifted. They did not speak. They echoed. Their presence alone made the air feel colder. Human scanners lit up instantly. Thousands of red symbols filled the dreadnought screens. "Multiple contacts," an officer called out. "Movement pattern confirmed," another added. Captain Rhea Morgan's eyes narrowed. "The hollow ones," she said, "so they finally show themselves." Meanwhile, down on Valora, the council stood frozen, watching the sky tear apart. Counselor Liren whispered, What are those things?" Elder Sira answered with a trembling voice. "Creatures from the dark expanse, they feed on minds, on memory, on identity." Her wings shivered. "They destroy worlds not by fire, but by silence." The first hollow creature drifted closer to the human escort ships. Its shape shifted, stretching, shrinking, twisting, as if it couldn't decide what form to keep. Then it opened a glowing mouth-like shape and released a wave of sound so strange that Velarans covered their ears in pain. Human ships did not panic. They fired. Bright blue beams shot through the air, slicing the creature into ash. But the ash moved. The ash grew. And the creature reformed. Velarans gasped. "How do you kill something that does not die?" Elder Sira answered quietly. "You burn away its hunger, or you burn away the sky." Back in the dreadnought, Captain Morgan studied the enemy swarm. "Hollow ones evolving," an officer warned. "They are adapting to our weapons." "They always do," Morgan replied, "but they came here for a reason." Her second officer hesitated. "The distress signal." Captain Morgan shook her head. No, they came because Valora connects to human space routes. They want a path into the core worlds. Her eyes turned cold. And we will not allow it. More rifts opened above Valora, twisting like dark flowers blooming in reverse. Dozens of hollow ships emerged, not metal, not machines, but living vessels grown from shadow and bone. Each ship pulsed like a beating heart, expanding and breaking into smaller pieces. Velerans cried out as the sky filled with black veins of the enemy fleet. Children hid, parents grabbed them, guards tried to calm crowds but failed. Fear spread faster than the wind. Inside the dreadnought, tactical screens turned red. Enemy fleet count, 2,000. Energy signature unstable. Spore clouds detected. Captain Morgan stood tall. Humans did not come for fear, she said. We came for this. She activated the ship's voice amplifiers, broadcasting one message across every human vessel. This is Aegis Prime. Prepare for full system engagement. Human ships moved with perfect discipline, forming a rough circle around the hollow swarm. Velerans watched in awe as human laser grids lit up the sky like a net of blue fire. Then came something even stranger. The hollow ones reacted. Not with panic, but with interest. Their ships pulsed brighter, their forms shifted, as if they were studying the human weapons, learning, improving. Counselor Laren felt dread creep into his bones. They are not fighting, they are testing us. Elder Syrah whispered. The hollow ones learn quickly, too quickly. A massive hollow warform emerged in the center of the rifts, larger than any creature seen before, its body twisted like melting shadows, its face changing every second. The dreadnought sensors shook from the reading. Captain Morgan clenched her jaw. Of course they sent a prime entity. Velerans stared at the monster rising in their sky. This is only the beginning, someone cried. Elder Syrah closed her eyes. Yes, she whispered, the real battle has not even started. But humanity was ready, and the heavens were about to burn brighter than ever before. The massive hollow warform rose above Valora like a living storm, its body stretched across the sky, twisting and bending, breaking into shapes the mind could not understand. Velerans stared up in terror, their wings tight against their backs. Counselor Laren whispered. No creature should be this big. Elder Syrah answered softly. This is not a creature, this is an extinction. Inside the human dreadnought, alarms flashed red across every screen. Prime entity detected, an officer reported. Shields at maximum. Weapon capacitors charging. Captain Rhea Morgan stood in the center of the bridge, calm but focused. She knew what a prime entity meant. She had seen one before, on a world that no longer existed. Target its core mass, she commanded. Her gunnery chief hesitated. Captain, its core keeps moving. Then follow it, Morgan replied. Humans do not miss. The dreadnought's main cannons glowed with bright blue light, energy gathering inside their rotating rings. Every Veleran could feel the air vibrating. Every human felt the coming storm. Then the hollow warform screamed. It was not a normal scream, it was a sound of many voices, many memories, many stolen lives mixed together. Velerans fell to their knees, covering their ears. Human soldiers inside their armored suits increased audio filters to maximum. Still, the sound shook their bones. Hollow ships swarmed toward the human line like a river of shadows. Human fighters launched, cutting through them with beams and missiles. The sky became a battlefield of blue fire and black smoke. A squadron leader shouted over comms. Shadow swarm approaching Sector 9. Another replied. Multiple targets on my tail, requesting support. But the humans did not break formation. Their ships moved with perfect timing, covering each other, destroying enemies before they reached Valora. Then the prime entity struck. It opened a giant glowing mouth in the sky and released a pulse of dark energy. Human shields flared white. Human ships shook violently. Several escort ships spiraled downward, trailing fire. Velerans screamed as wreckage fell toward the oceans. Captain Morgan watched the readings, her jaw tight. They are trying to break our wall, she said. Her second officer spoke quickly. The prime entity is moving closer. Morgan nodded. They want Valora, they want to consume the memories of this world. Then she gave the order that changed everything. Activate Heaven Burner Protocol. The bridge fell silent. Officers turned in shock. Captain, that weapon, it could light the entire sky. Morgan's voice was steady. If we do not use it, Valora will die. Deep inside the dreadnought, massive energy coils began to spin. Blue fire gathered in the ship's core chamber. The hull vibrated from the rising power. Outside, the sky turned brighter and brighter. Human ships pulled back to a safe distance, forming a ring of protection around the dreadnought. Velorans watched in confusion and fear. What is happening? Why is the sky glowing? Elder Sira's eyes widened with realization. They are going to burn the heavens, for us. The prime entity sensed the danger. Its form shifted violently, growing spikes, forming shields made of shadow. It launched hundreds of hollow fragments toward the dreadnought. Human fighters rushed forward, intercepting them. Explosions painted the air with splashes of blue and black. Captain Morgan raised her hand. All ships, brace. The dreadnought's main cannon opened like a giant lens. A beam of pure blue-white energy shot forward, bright enough to erase shadows. Bright enough to blind the sky. The Heaven Burner. It hit the prime entity directly. Light filled the entire sky, so bright the oceans reflected it like a second sun. Velorans covered their faces, thinking the end had come. Even humans on the ship felt their hearts shake. The prime entity writhed, screamed, its form breaking apart. Its shadows burned away, its stolen memories releasing into the air like sparks. It tried to reform, but the light was too strong. The sky blazed like a dying star, and the hollow ones began to fall. The sky of Valora glowed for many long seconds after the Heaven Burner fired. The oceans shined like molten glass, the floating cities trembled. Velorans held their breath, thinking their world had reached its final moment. Then slowly, the light faded. The sky dimmed, turning back to its natural deep blue. Clouds reformed where the energy had torn them apart. And the shadows that once filled the heavens were gone. Not drifting. Not hiding. Gone. The prime entity's last scream echoed faintly, then dissolved into silence. Pieces of hollow ships rained down like harmless dust, fading before reaching the ocean. The great threat that had followed Valora, hunted it, and marked it, was finally destroyed. Inside the human dreadnought, officers exhaled in relief. But their faces showed exhaustion. The Heaven Burner had saved the world, but at a heavy cost. Energy levels were dangerously low. Shields were cracked. Several escort ships were gone. Many brave human pilots had not returned. Captain Rhea Morgan stood quietly at the center of the bridge. She watched the fading debris on the screens. Her voice was low, but strong. Status report. Her officers answered one by one. Prime entity destroyed. Hollow swarm neutralized. Aegis Prime remains operational. Morgan closed her eyes for a moment, not to rest, but to honor the fallen. Down on Valora, the council and citizens gathered outside as the dreadnought descended slowly. Its engines flickered, damaged from the battle. But the ship still moved with pride, like a wounded guardian refusing to fall. Veloran children pointed at the human ship, eyes wide with awe. Is that the one who saved us? Their parents nodded, tears shining in their eyes. No one had expected help to arrive like this. Certainly not in the form of burning skies and thunder that shook the world. A landing ramp opened, and a small group of human soldiers stepped out. They wore heavy armor, scorched and cracked from the fight. Behind them walked Captain Morgan, her uniform torn in several places. Yet her posture was steady, her gaze calm. The Veloran Council bowed respectfully. Elder Sira stepped forward. "Humanity," she said softly, "you answered our call, even when others did not." Captain Morgan shook her head. "We answer because we must." Her voice carried across the entire gathering. "Long ago, the Hollow Ones destroyed 3 human colonies. We swore that no other world would suffer as we did. When your signal reached human space, we moved without hesitation. Counselor Laren looked at the damaged human ship. But you risked everything. Morgan nodded. That is what humans do. The children gathered closer, fascinated by the armored humans. One small Velaran asked, "Were you afraid?" Morgan knelt so she could speak at eye level. "Of course," she said with a soft smile, "but bravery is not the absence of fear, it is choosing to protect others even when fear is strong." Elder Sira felt tears rise. For centuries, we believed humans were dangerous. Morgan stood again. "We are," she replied simply, "but only to those who threaten life." The Velarans looked up at the sky, now peaceful again. They remembered how it burned with human fire, how it thundered with human weapons, how it shined brighter than their own sun during the battle. They had asked for aid. But what they received was something far greater. They received human fury, human courage, human sacrifice. Elder Sira spoke the final words, words that would be remembered in Velaran history forever. "We called for help," she said. "And humanity answered, with the heavens burning." The humans bowed their heads. The Velarans bowed in return. On that day, two species understood each other in a way no treaty could ever explain. Not through diplomacy, not through negotiation, but through shared survival, through fire and light, through sacrifice and hope. For from that moment onward, the Velarans knew one truth. A truth older than any star. A truth carried in every human heart. No world cries alone. Not while humanity hears the call.